3, 2, 1, shoot.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Nothing But Skills, and in today's video we're going to be showing you how to one-shot Razorback. You need a particular build, plus you need 2 support builds, but you're going to have a couple people running this TAC 50 build if you want to have the chance of one-shotting them like you saw in the video. Now, the video was brought to me by Angelica, one of my clan members, so big shout out to her for sending me the video over, and that way I'm able to present it with the build. So let's get into it. So right off the bat, we see we have the TAC 50, 448,000 damage, and that is the main damage that you're going to get out of this build. Now, we are running 11 offensive, 5 utility, 192,000 armor, 27,000 health, 792 skill power. You can see that we're running really low health, and that's just because on this build we're stacking crit chance, crit damage, because we want to crit with this TAC 50. So since the weapons really don't matter, I am using the Eagle Bear. It's only at 23,000, but my crit chance is maxed out and my crit damage is pretty good. So I'm able to melt enemies even with that low damage right there. So let's get into it. We have the mask. The mask is going to be a Sokolov mask. This is probably one of the most sought after masks. The 1 red, 2 yellow. So I have 37% damage to elites on there. I can roll that up a little bit higher. We have skill power of 279, 5% skill haste. And then we have spotter, which is active because we're running 5 utility, 20% weapon damage to pulse enemies, and we'll be having a player run tip of the spear, so when they pulse, spotter will be active. We get into the chest. We're running a Providence chest that gives me 10% skill power. Now, you can run any chest piece you want here. The reason why I'm picking this Providence one is not because of the skill power, but because of the attributes. I have weapon damage on here already. I had crit chance of 11.5%, and then I rolled 18.5% crit damage, and that's a pretty good roll for a chest piece. You want to get that crit chance and crit damage on the chest piece, and you want it to be high so that way you can max out the crit chance. Now, you do want to have hard hitting on there, so I get that 10% damage to elites. Since I do have a utility mod on here, I'm putting the skill power one with drone skill power, and that's going to be for my defender drone. And then I have the hive skill power too. So we have drone, hive, the 2 that I'm using. Now, if we go down, we have the defensive mod slot that's going to be giving me 3% total armor, 3k armor, and then 3% protection from elites. If we get into the holster, you're going to see I am running a Wyvern holster. I'm running a 3-piece, so I have the 7% crit damage, 15% drone skill power, another one for the drone, defender drone that I'm using, 10% critical hit chance, so I'm getting closer to that max crit chance when I'm using the TAC 50. Now, I have 15.5% crit hit chance on the holster. I have hard hitting, that 10% damage to elites, and then I have an offensive mod slot. Now, if I could get a couple with damage to health, that's what you want, because remember, the damage that you do to Razorback is health damage. So this one right here with the 1% is going to be better than that 2% weapon damage. So I could probably put that 1% weapon damage to health, or if I could find one that had 2% weapon damage and 2% damage to health, that's what I would really want to go with. I don't really have that many, and I haven't really found too many, but if you do have those damage to health ones, the ones that say 2%, that's what I would probably put on there. If you can get a couple of those God roll ones that have that. See, I don't have any on this build, so yeah, if you can find those, that's what you want to get. If we get to the knee pads, this is my second piece of Wyvern, so I get 8% crit chance right there. We have hard hitting for 10% damage to elites. And then another one, you see how we have a 2% weapon damage. I did stack a little bit of AR damage because I do use the Eagle Bear for clearing a couple of the ads before we end up going after the 1 shot on Razorback. But remember, like I said, if you get those damage to health mob rolls, that's going to be the best bet for hitting the hardest on Razorback. We get into the gloves. I'm running Gilligard gloves with total armor. So that gives me 5% total armor, even though my armor is only 200. We have 337 armor regeneration, which I'd rather have health there. We have 8% assault rifle damage. Remember, you don't put marksman rifle damage because that does not affect your TAC 50. So just put whatever weapon you plan on using. Since I'm using the Eagle Bear, I'll run the AR damage. We have hard hitting with 10% damage to elites. And then a utility mod slot that's going to be skill power, pulse skill power, and drone skill power. But I'm using it for the drone skill power. And then for the last piece, we have the backpack, the Wyvern backpack, which is going to give me that 10% critical hit chance. And then this is where I wish I could improve my build a little. I want this same backpack, I like having that skill power there, but I would rather have crit chance, crit damage, a higher roll, or if I had hard hitting already on this backpack, that's what I would have went for. If I would have had a hard hitting there, I could have rolled a higher crit chance, and you're gonna see I'm just a little off of max crit chance on my TAC 50, so that's definitely where I want to be. But hey, we can't always get what we want, but that's where you guys want to improve. You want to get that higher crit chance, higher crit damage here. And then since I didn't put anything for defensive mod slot, we're going to add that on there. I had it on earlier, but I guess it didn't save, so we're going to add this one right here. So my armor did go up a little bit, 212k. We'll show you the skills real quick, and then we'll get into the stats. So I'm running 80% duration, 80% skill haste, and then drone skill power because I don't have anything here. Now, if you have better mods than this, I'd recommend putting them on there. If you had something with more skill power, more duration, I know that they have these ones right here that have deflect duration, which is pretty cool too. So if you want to put that instead, you can. You'll have enough. You'll definitely have enough skill power mods for that. And then I typically run the Reviver Hive in case I go down. But let's get into the stats, right? Let's get into the stats because that's what matters about this build. So we're going to switch to our TAC 50. So we have our TAC 50 right there. So we have 52% crit hit chance, which if I had a better roll on the backpack, I could be maxed out at critical hit chance. And then I could definitely have a higher critical hit damage roll on the backpack too. So I could probably get up to around 70% critical hit damage, around 60% critical hit chance with this build, but I do not have the perfect rolls with the TAC 50. So this one still hits pretty good, and this is probably the minimum you want, maybe a little bit lower you could probably go, but that's about it. You want to make sure that you're at least above 52, 53, 55%. I kind of think is the min. I'm at 52, so I'm a little bit under, but 60% if you can get it there, and then the max crit hit chance. And I've seen like 60%, 70 something percent crit hit damage. You can see my all weapon damage right there is 8.5. That's the only thing that's going to affect the TAC 50. Marksman rifle damage does not affect it. And then that health damage. If you can have any of that health damage, that will affect it, and that 87% damage to elites. So having that damage to elites there is going to be good, almost at 90%. Health damage, I would love to have a couple mods with that. Give me a little bit more damage there. That all weapon damage does affect the TAC 50. And then of course your crit hit chance and crit damage is what you're pushing for with this build. But yeah, that's pretty much the build. That is how you run this build. You're really focused on crit hit chance, crit hit damage. You want to make sure you can have spotter active because you're going to get that tip of the spear, and that's how I would run it. If you have some god roll pieces, maybe you do, you might be able to even activate on the ropes, and that would be crazy. So instead of having 3 blues, maybe you have 7 yellows, so you could have 11 0 7 11 1 7. Who knows? If you had the perfect rolls, having on the ropes could be active. But yeah, overall, that's how you kind of want to run this build. Definitely what I want. If you don't want to run a Reviver Hive and you want to help out with the drones, you could swap out the Reviver Hive, and then you could also put on the Jammer Pulse. So you want to run this one right here. So the Jammer Pulse, our overloads and disables hostile electronics. So that would also be something you want to put on. So if you want to run that instead, you could run that instead of running. If you feel like you're not going to get dropped, run that, and most likely you won't, so that probably will be a better place for you to put there instead of the Reviver Hive. But yeah, remember, crit chance, crit damage throughout the build. I am running the Eagle Bearer to help me out when I am fighting enemies, and then when I run the Eagle Bearer, look, if you look, I have a little bit more crit chance. I'm at 60%, 72% crit damage, and that's with the Eagle Bearer. So if I want to run that, and then for my secondary, I always run the custom P416, the one I have with recharge. While equipped, skills deployed at full armor have 25% duration. So every time I use my defender drone, 25% duration on it. As long as it's not taking a lot of damage, it'll be up there the whole time. So yeah, so I always run that custom P416 with the Eagle Bearer because that's going to be my hardest hitting weapon with this build, with running crit chance, crit damage. And then the TAC 50 does all the work. I hope this helped you guys out. If you guys were wondering how people are one-shotting, two-shotting Razorback, this is how they're doing it. The guys who are two-shotting it, they're running less people with this build, and they're just having more people hit the TAC 50, but they all count down 3, 2, 1. Everybody shoots at once, and then boom, you should be able to one-shot them if you run enough of these. So you want to run tip of the spear, and you want to run aces and eights. And then everybody else, you're probably going to be running tag 50. So hopefully this helps you guys out. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comment section. I appreciate all the support, guys. You guys have been great. And thank you guys again for always supporting this channel. If you guys enjoy these videos, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment down below. And as always, until the next Division 2 video, nothing but skills out.